The fourth plenum opens in eerie silence, no footage, no applause, state media mute. At the same time, 9 generals are expelled, only 4 remain on the CMC. Explosive rumors: will Xi Jinping resign as CMC chairman? Talk grows that Zhang Youxia will take over. Xinhua's midnight essay praises the core 20+ times. Commentators say it's not laudation but interment. The CCP's fourth plenum has just opened in Beijing, yet across China, an uncanny quiet. No applause, no footage, no shots from the venue. State media are collectively silent while the military rolls out personnel shocks. A meeting billed as routine is being described by outside observers as a moment of unprecedented sensitivity. The latest online leak: Xi Jinping will resign as chairman of the Central Military Commission, to be succeeded by Zhang Youxia. At the same time, 9 generals have been expelled from the party, only 4 remain on the CMC. The 5 theater commands are reportedly being handled by deputies for now. China's military power map is being redrawn. And at midnight, Xinhua suddenly published a long essay repeating, with Xi Jinping at the core, more than 20 times. One line from Commentators cut through it all: this isn't praise, it's burial. The fourth plenum has no voice because the real voice is fermenting behind the scenes. This silent tremor may be resetting the course of Chinese politics. The fourth plenum's muted scene. On October 20, 2025, the CCP's 20th Central Committee fourth plenum opened in Beijing. By custom, such a plenum would be intensively covered that day by Xinhua, People's Daily, and CCTV's Xinhua, with venue footage and excerpts of speeches. Yet by that evening, state media had only released a 100-character Xinhua brief saying Xi Jinping delivered a work report, without even a photo. More unusually, that night's Xinhua didn't report on the plenum at all. Only in the program's closing international segment did it toss off a few lines about the international community watching the 20th fourth plenum and expecting it to inject stability and confidence into the world economy. The entire broadcast contained no footage of the plenum. For a meeting touted as setting the direction for the next 5 years, the silence is glaring. In past years, Day 1 would already show broadcast images, venue close-ups, and speech highlights. Now there are only a few lines, no images, no sound, leaving one to wonder: is information control at an extreme, or is the top-level situation stretched to a breaking point? Xinhua and People's Daily did release templated copy emphasizing that the meeting's main task is to craft the 15th five-year plan, summarizing the historic achievements of the 14th five-year period, and deploying high-quality development and self-reliance in science and technology for the next 5 years. The phrase, with Xi Jinping at the core of the party Central Committee, appears repeatedly, signaling an attempt to stress political loyalty and centralized authority amid economic slowdown and elite turbulence, to project stability externally. Yet these main melody narratives clash with the data. In October, the National Bureau of Statistics reported September CPI up just 0.1% year-over-year while PPI fell for a 17th straight month. Deflationary pressure persists. Real estate investment fell 9.2% year-over-year. Local government debt risks keep mounting. The IMF's latest World Economic Outlook cut China's 2025 growth forecast from 4.6% to 4.1%, warning that weak domestic demand and expanding debt are suppressing recovery momentum. The tier between numbers and propaganda. Against that backdrop, Xinhua and People's Daily still trumpet stable and improving and new quality productive forces, clearly a confidence-building project, an effort to sing a bright China economy chorus. What truly jolted public opinion was Xinhua's 12:19 a.m. midnight long read, Forge Ahead through the 14th five-year plan, historic achievements led by the Party Central Committee with Comrade Xi Jinping at its core. Thousands of words, nearly every paragraph revolving around Xi Jinping, repeating with Comrade Xi Jinping at the core more than 20 times, packaging the past 5 years of policy as a great miracle. But the economic malaise and fiscal strain make for a stark contrast. Analysts familiar with CCP propaganda cadence say such an unusual release time isn't accidental, more like an 11th-hour stabilization patch. Xinhua's move both projects an unshakable core outward and possibly lays political cushioning for a future orderly exit by Xi. This midnight bulletin is being read as a last-minute political patch by the propaganda system. Independent scholar Fang Yuan notes that in CCP political language, when a leader is praised at extreme frequency, his name embedded in virtually every paragraph, it often means he has entered a summation stage. The rhythm resembles the promotional surges before Mao, Hua Guofeng, or Jiang Zemin stepped down or lost sway. Commentator Zhou Xiaohui adds that Xinhua's night essay echoes the military paper's prior day editorial. Xinhua whitewashes Xi in the economy while the PLA paper severs responsibility in the military. Together they form a transitional language, maintaining a facade of regime stability while hinting that a new power distribution is underway. In his words, this style is not praise, it's a send-off. Independent writer Yushan argues this kind of Xinhua copy is high-level black. It pins every success on the core, while blaming downturns and debt on local execution or the external environment. That all credit up, all blame down template flatters on the surface while cutting away responsibility, exposing the system's fragility. From a wider lens, the Midnight Shock essay mirrors the contradictions of regime self-rescue. The harder the state pushes a vision of victory and stability, the more it displays fear of uncertainty. The real agenda of this plenum may not be economic planning at all, but how to maintain order through an unannounced power transition. International media likewise note that while the plenum nominally focuses on economic planning, its political meaning far exceeds economics. Most observers think the closed-door core is how to rebalance top-level power and personnel amid a worsening internal crisis. In other words, behind the CCP's curated grand narrative, a deeper political drama is unfolding backstage. Military undercurrents and a sheer fault storm. At dawn the day the plenum opened, former PLA Navy staff officer, Lieutenant Commander, Youxia posted on X a startling claim: Xi Jinping will resign as chairman of the Central Military Commission at the plenum. Current CMC Vice Chairman Zhang Youxia will take over. Xinhua and Liu Zhenli will both become vice chairman. Yao says long building discontent in the ranks toward Xi's grip on the military has peaked. 2 years of frequent purges and concentrated takedowns in the equipment system and rocket force have driven uncertainty in the ranks to the limit. According to Yao's claimed channels, the military exerted heavy pressure. Xi knows that if he continues as CMC chairman, he'll face widespread aversion within the forces and be unable to mobilize them, directly endangering party rule. Hence he chooses retreat to preserve, resigning the CMC chair to cut a deal with anti-Xi factions, in exchange for staying on as General Secretary and State President. Earlier, Yao also said leadership teams across services are being urgently reshuffled, and the 5 theater commands have essentially entered sleep mode. He names all 5 commanders as out of position: East, Lin Xiangyang; South, Wu Yanan; West, Wang Haijiang; North, Huang Ming, with Central's deputy Li Zhizhong acting as caretaker. He claims abolishing the 5 theaters is almost a foregone conclusion and that a return to the old military regions is TBD, await a post-plenum expanded CMC meeting. For now, these claims cannot be verified. But Yao's leaks aren't conjured from thin air. 3 days before the plenum, the Ministry of National Defense announced that He Weidong, Miao Hua, and 7 other generals were expelled from the party and military and referred to military prosecutors. 8 of the 9 were Central Committee members. Several had been seen as Xi's core pillars within the PLA. From the serial rocket force purges to a shrunken CMC presidium to the uprooting of He Weidong and Miao Hua, this unprecedented cleanup has opened a rare structural fault in China's military power, and lends fresh weight to rumors of a transfer of command. Whether or not Yao proves right, the consensus beneath is plain: military reconfiguration is the most sensitive subtext of this 4th plenum. Institutional vacuum and power reallocation. As multiple versions of top-level personnel reshuffle, swirl, the CCP faces an unprecedented organizational and political conundrum. On the eve of the plenum, 9 generals were expelled from the party and military, 8 of them Central Committee members. Add in earlier removals: Logistics Support Department Minister Zhang Lin stripped of NPC deputy status, former Agriculture Minister Tang Renjian expelled, former Shaanxi Governor Jin Xiangjuan removed, Customs Chief Yu Jianhua dying under abnormal circumstances last December, and at least 12 Central Committee seats are vacant. Under party rules, CC members or alternates expelled from the party must have their posts revoked by the Central Committee, with alternates filling in by rank order. This time, most removals are from the military, and there are too few military alternates, creating a structural, no soldiers to fill the seats, gap. Taiwan's INDSR researcher Shen Mingxer notes that replacement should follow alternate ranking, but the acting officers now running key commands are often not alternates and thus ineligible, leaving someone doing the job but no one seated on the CC, an awkward long-term state. Shen says this structural vacuum may last until the next party congress, creating a dual vacuum between party and military. Meanwhile, CMC restructuring is stuck. With He Weidong, Miao Hua, Li Shangfu and others gone, the 7-member CMC is down to 4. Will the vacant vice chair be filled? Will Defense Minister Dong Jun enter the CMC? Any move risks signaling redivision of power, delaying invites readings of paralysis. Observers argue the vacancies reflect not merely personnel hiccups but consequences of long-term overcentralization. When every appointment must be approved by the core, any dispute or adjustment at the very top unbalances the whole. Is the party press backing Xi or burying Xi? Amid sweeping military purges and personnel vacuums, the propaganda system has turned unusually active. The PLA Daily, Xinhua, and People's Daily are churning out editorials stressing the need to resolutely uphold the authority of the party's Central Committee with Comrade Xi Jinping at the core, portraying the 9 expelled generals as having seriously betrayed the trust of the party's Central and the CMC, and undermined the CMC chairman responsibility system. On its face, this looks like a purge masterminded by Xi. Proponents say it shows he still firmly holds command, anti-corruption, in uniform is the banner, but the substance is uprooting potential dissent, Xi reconsolidating personal authority around the plenum. Pro-Beijing scholars on social media call military corruption a must-cut tumor, saying the cleanup clears out old forces and paves the way for the next phase of military reform. But a second reading holds that Xi is being forced to yield. If Xi were truly directing this, it should come with authoritative CMC appointments and ritualized pledges. Instead, after the purge we see vacant CMC seats and no vows of loyalty from the ranks. The abnormal quiet suggests loss of initiative, that elders and the brass have orchestrated an orderly takeover of Xi's apparatus. From military anti-graft to provincial reshuffles to a tightened discourse, signs point to Xi still sitting on the rostrum but unable to steer the actual process. A third interpretation calls the blitz high-level black. Writer Yushan notes the PLA Daily's editorial seems to offload blame, but in doing so sketches an incompetent monarch. Recall, at the 20th Congress, Xinhua boasted that Xi personally planned and vetted the 20th CC and CCDI slates. Now the PLA paper says these men's faith collapsed, loyalty failed, implicitly indicting Xi's judgment. That rhetorical trick flatters while cutting, keeping a halo on the surface yet signaling he's become a target. Several foreign outlets see the same. Reuters says the pre-post-plenum spike in the core rhetoric reflects an attempt to mask internal fissures with loyalty narratives. Others call it political tourniquet, performative unity to tide over the plenum. All 3 readings, Xi's purge, Xi sidelined, and high-level black, have internal logic yet converge on one reality: the armed forces and the regime's core are in unprecedented flux, and every mouthpiece utterance is no longer just propaganda. It is politics. The last game behind the curtain. From the unusual silence of state media, to Xinhua's midnight-long read, to cascading shocks at the top of the military, all point to a regime straining to hold the facade. Every detail whispers, the CCP is undergoing a silent recomposition. It may not yet be at a public handover, but signs suggest real power redistribution is already happening in the dark. However this 4th plenum is finally framed, economic planning is mere stage dressing. The real plot is behind the curtain. Beijing at this moment is unnaturally quiet. Beneath the hush, the party's power chessboard may already have entered its endgame.